The thing that worries me about the New York Knicks, since Leon Rose has stepped into the building, we have talked about Damian Lillard and Donovan Mitchell as the two options that the Knicks have looked at since Leon Rose has walked into the door. Some way or another, both of those players have had connections to New York. Now, obviously, coming from the CAA sports agency world, Leon Rose he has connections to Donovan Mitchell and all of that. Donovan Mitchell has some ties within the Knicks coaching ranks. So all eyes point to the Knicks absolutely want this, absolutely need this. And the Utah Jazz know that, and they're going to hold them hostage until they get every little piece. So you're going to hear rumors of this team offering for Donovan Mitchell or that team offering for Donovan Mitchell. Because we all know that what the Knicks have, no other team in the NBA can match it. Not one single team can match what the Knicks can offer the Utah Jazz. And the Jazz know that. They know on the back burner, there will always be that trade available. So let's go around the league, see what we can get. And while we do that, we're going to pump up the Knicks offer. And what worries me about that is that the Knicks, you've been a Knicks fan for as long as I have, you've understood that the New York Knicks have not had a guard in the All-Star game since Allen Houston in the 2000-2001 season. A guard. It is a guard-driven league. And we have not had a guard, a lead guard, or a guard in the All-Star game since Allen Houston in the 2000-2001 season. And the last time the Knicks had a point guard in the All-Star game was Mark Jackson in 1988-1989 season. That's the last time they put a point guard in the All-Star game. Obviously, Patrick Ewing has made the All-Star game. David Lee, Amari Stoudemire, Carmelo Anthony, Tyson Chandler, Kristaps Porzingis, Julius Randle. But the Knicks have not had a guard since Allen Houston and Latrell Sprewell made it in 2000-2001. And then before that, John Starks made it in 93-94 season. And then before that, Mark Jackson was the last point guard to make it in the 1988-1989 season with the New York Knicks. So the desperation is real for the New York Knicks. And to have Jalen Brunson and to have Donovan Mitchell and to have RJ Barrett, you have a core three there. And then when things open up, when things become available down the road, we always talk about the Knicks aren't cool anymore. They can't get a top tier level free agent. Kevin Durant didn't want to come there because the Knicks aren't cool. You know, that's one of the things going around is nobody wants to come to New York. You take a look at LA. LeBron was perfectly fine going to LA. You know, Anthony Davis was perfectly fine going to LA. Russell Westbrook was perfectly fine going to LA. LA has never had an issue attracting stars, whether they were good or bad. The New York Knicks, they're having trouble right now. But if you get Donovan Mitchell, if you get Jalen Brunson, you have a foundation there. You will continually be a playoff contender until you can find that spot, that piece that could put you over the top. Or maybe RJ Barrett grows into that piece because RJ Barrett is only 22 years old. And I know he hasn't had the immediate impact that Ja Morant has had. But you got to remember, this kid is only 22 years old and he's gotten better every single year. And when he can play more his game, when you have Jalen Brunson there and you bring in Donovan Mitchell, RJ Barrett will be able to be better because he's not that only scoring option. Him and Julius Randle aren't the only two guys that have to touch the ball. But I'm worried that the Knicks are going to get desperate and make a desperation move and trade away, mortgage their future just to bring in Donovan Mitchell. And if they do that, this team is going to lack the assets to add pieces in the future because Donovan Mitchell, RJ Barrett, and Jalen Brunson is not enough to compete for an NBA championship. But it is, however, enough to make the Knicks relevant year in, year out for the foreseeable future. And if you have been a Knicks fan as long as I have, I'm not looking at a move And I'd love to make a move to make the Knicks a NBA championship contender, but I'm not looking for that move right this second. I'm looking to make the Knicks relevant again. Let's start there. Let's build a foundation. Let's walk before we try to run. And when you're a New York Knicks fan, it's a little more difficult to try to walk before you run because it's New York. It's New York media. It's New York madness. We need to run before we walk. We need NBA championships. And if you're not making an NBA championship move, it's not a move worth making. And I disagree with that. If you take a look at this Knicks team and the hardship that they have faced in the last 20-so years, if they are able to pull off a move for Donovan Mitchell and be able to hold on to some of these young guys like R.J. Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley and Obi Toppin, that's a win in my book. That is a win in my book because I can count on this team being a consistent playoff team. But it's not going to be enough to compete with teams like Miami and Philadelphia and the Brooklyn Nets if they bring everybody back and all these other elite teams, the Boston Celtics. It's not going to be enough for that. But what it is going to be enough for is for them to fall in that 4 to 7 range. Now, obviously, if they're in the 7 spot, they got to play in the play-in game. But that's good enough to make them relevant year in and year out. And we need to learn as Knicks fans to walk before we run. So I know people are getting annoyed to potentially maneuvering and mortgaging the future. But let's be honest. We have some nice pieces. But not everybody's calling for Cam Reddish. Not everybody's calling for Quentin Grimes. Not everybody wants these guys. Not anybody's calling for Evan Fournier or Julius Randle. These are nice pieces, but they're not looked at as high-level, quote-unquote, farm pieces. You know, like people always use that term, you're selling the farm. What farm? These are nice pieces. But in order to be a consistent winner, a consistent playoff contender, you need to have something better than nice pieces. And that's where Donovan Mitchell comes in. Because you may look at these draft picks as gold, but what I look at them as is unspoken, unforeseen potential. They could be an all-star level player. They could also be down in the dumps and out of the league in 3 years. You don't know what that draft pick is going to get. And I'll be honest with you, if you send unprotected picks to the Utah Jazz and you bring in Donovan Mitchell and you have Jalen Brunson and you have R.J. Barrett, you shouldn't be picking in the lottery. So those picks basically are going to be late 20s picks between 20 and 30. So it doesn't even matter if they're unprotected picks because if you play the right way, if you get the right pieces, those picks aren't going to be high-level picks. So we need to stop this as Knicks fans of we're mortgaging the future and this and that, and it's not a championship level type of move, so we don't need to make it. That is not true. That is asinine thinking. Let's walk before we run. So while I want the Donovan Mitchell move to happen sooner rather than later, while it's inevitable because nobody can offer the kind of things that we can offer, let's do our best to not mortgage the whole future by giving up a bevy of draft picks and a bevy of nice rotational pieces. Let's mix it in. You want some of this, you want some of that. All right, I'll give you 4 first-round picks. I'm not going to give you Obi or Emmanuel Quickley, but I can give you Quentin Grimes and I can give you Jericho Sims. You know, they have to work this deal out where it's a sliding scale. The more picks you want, the less players you're going to get. The more players you want, the less picks you're going to get. And at the end of the day, the Knicks need to find a sweet spot, know what the maximum offer is that they're going to give them, and do not move off of that. Do not make that desperate move. Do not trade the farm, as they like to say, for Donovan Mitchell. Even though I don't believe that we technically have a farm, I think we have nice pieces, but they're not farm. It's not the farm. You're not giving these all-star level players up for Donovan Mitchell. You're giving up nice young rotational pieces. But I don't want to make that same mistake that we did with Carmelo Anthony, where we gave up Wilson Chandler and we gave up Danilo Gallinari and Raymond Felton and this guy and tore down our whole team to add Carmelo Anthony. I don't want to make that same mistake again. So we need to have a sliding scale. This is what we're going to offer. You want 6 picks, you're going to get 1 player or 2 players. And if you want to take a player, you're going to have to take one of our contracts, like Evan Fournier. So you want an unprotected first round pick? I'm going to throw Evan Fournier in there. You have to take him if you want my unprotected first round pick. If you want more players, I'm only going to give you a handful of first round picks. So it all decides on what the Utah Jazz are looking for, what they want, and the Knicks need to stay firm on that because there's no team in the NBA that can